Welcome to another exciting episode of our special webisode series on Building for Bharat, empowering sustainable and inclusive innovation. This series, under the aegis of Leap to Unicorn Season 3, celebrates National Startup Week. Leap to Unicorn with IDFC First Bank, in association with Money Control and CNBC TV 18, brings together leading industry experts, mentors, and investors to provide mentoring, networking, and fundraising opportunities to India's most promising startups, fostering valuable strategic partnerships. Now, in its third season, the program continues to inspire and enable innovation in the startup ecosystem. In our last episode, we heard from Bipin Preet Singh, co-founder and CEO of MobiKwik, who shared invaluable insights on fintech and building accessible solutions for millions of users. Our next guest is Archana Jagirdar, founder and managing partner, Rukum Capital, a venture capital firm dedicated to empowering early-stage startups through strategic investments and support. With a wealth of experience and a keen eye on spotting game-changing opportunities, Archana shares how Rukum Capital and investors like her are driving meaningful, impactful change in the startup ecosystem. Now, welcome to the show, and thank you for taking out time for us.
Thank you for having me.
Asha, you must be seeing like gazillion of startup pitches every day. How many times do you come across the word building for Bharat in those pitches?
So, most decks don't put it out there in as many words, but if I look at it from my perspective and my point of view, I think everybody's building for Bharat because if you look at India as a market opportunity, you can't take away Bharat as a separate subset in that sense. I know that there's been a lot of focus on middle class and, urban middle class, but that is a very poor and a reductive way of looking at consumption patterns in the country. Forever, I would say, at least for the last 20 years, post liberalization, if you look at any sort of even luxury products, whether these are multinationals who've come in or homegrown products, they've always found market outside of the metros.
Right.
So we are seeing that trend continuing because there is a lot more hunger in smaller towns because actually accessibility is the issue. Desirability is not the problem.
Acha, when you assess these startups, is there anything specific or a parameter that you see or look at?
The only parameter we look at is the founder. The success and failure is, on the hand in the hands of a founder, because the product thinking about who's the consumer, penetration, distribution, pricing, it is all a function of how a founder thinks about all this.
Right. Asha, inclusivity, which is also the theme of this year's Startups Day, is something that a lot of startups are building in, whether it is for women entrepreneurs, rural artisans, specially abled. How should startups go about it when they are looking at this particular segment market?
So founders need to be much more broader based. I believe that this is the age of polymaths. Polymaths, if I were to just do again a very simplistic sort of explanation, it is people who are more generalists. Because a generalist will dip into many, many, many things
Yeah.
and have therefore a view, a starting point
Hmm.
of many different sectors, people, consumer segments.
Yeah.
Because, it's also, I think there's a misunderstanding that, oh, it is a personal pain that you've gone through and therefore you can start a business in that. That's all not always the case, right? The second problem I think that has been there in the startup ecosystem in India, which is changing mercifully, is that there's been this belief that if we just copy what has happened and worked in the West, will work here. But we've got our own unique challenges and opportunities. And we have, it's important for founders. And the reason that Indian founders can solve those Indian problems is because when you're closest to the consumer base is when you can solve those problems in a profitable and equitable fashion, is what I would say. I mean, we believe in, businesses being equitable as well, of course, as profitable.
Asha, what is the most common mistake that you see in these pitches, from startups building in the consumer space, and what would be your advice to them?
Too many founders, tend to give away either equity, too much equity very early. Second, there's a lot of founders, let's say especially in the case of solo founders, they will just to, because you need two people to form a private limited company in India, they'll typically give 50% to either a father or a mother,
And
thinking that, they're being good to their parents, not realizing that that makes them uninvestable. They'll give advisor equity, which is not allowed. It's not legal in India anymore to give advisory equity. Um, Too many founders have very little ESOP pool or no ESOP pool. They underestimate now, how tough it is to get talent.
Got it. Asha, at Rukum, what is next? What kind of startups you're currently looking at? Anything interesting that came across?
So we are looking at both technology and as well as we are looking at consumer. We've got two different vehicles, so we look at both sort of sectors. In consumer, I think what is interesting me personally right now is this whole longevity and how do you create health span versus just lifespan. Medical science, works really, really hard to create, lifespans for us. So now longevity, I think, is a little bit of a settled issue, right? Like if you look at even at, people who were born, let's say in 1930s, 40s, they're living to be, maybe 80, 85 and reasonably healthy. I mean, more and more people are living longer. But living long is not good enough.
Yeah.
It's the quality of life that matters.
True.
Because you don't want also see the more, medical burden there is on an individual. What is, of course, understood from a finance perspective is that it burdens the entire society as well as the state itself, right? Because there's a cost to every individual falling, say, ill and therefore not being productive. So it's important that as people live long, there is a productive outcome. So this will lead to a whole different sort of generation of products and services emerging because as people live into, let's say, their 90s, and I'm saying 90s is already, I think, a threshold that's getting crossed, right? But I'm talking about a health span perspective. I'm not just saying that, okay, fine, chronologically you live 90, but you're doddering, you're just sitting inside, cooped up in a house because you can't do much else. Then it'll be about how do they keep themselves engaged? What kind of work force will they make, for tomorrow? So I think the world will get reimagined. So it's one of the most important, I would say, things to look at. And there are some interesting companies emerging out of India. There is work that's happening on a lot of the internal organs. I think a lot of the longevity companies are basically focusing on the internal organs. But of course, what remains a big sort of a mystery is the human brain, which is an important part that needs to get fixed if health span has to increase. So things like Parkinson, Alzheimer's, dementia, if those continue to afflict, even if you have a healthy body, then again you don't get health span. You will have longevity, and the maybe the physical body is well enabled, but if the mind is not, or the brain is not part of that overall well being, then we'll have a bigger problem on our hands. And I think for India, given in absolute numbers, everything will be a large number in India. So it's important for us that every adult is productive and healthy. So I think longevity is something that excites me, and I think there is a technology aspect to it, and then there's a consumer aspect to it as well.
Asha, lastly, what should be the VC's role in sort of, pushing these startups which are building for the Bharat or all these innovations that you just spoke about? What should be the VC's role in all of this?
So it's a really good question. I think VC, because it's such a new form of risk capital. See, India didn't have risk capital really. So it's poorly understood by founders and by investors. And I'm glad you asked this question. So VCs are meant to underwrite a risk, which means that it is meant to underwrite loss. It is not meant to underwrite when you're already a profitable company, right? And that's how you can take these sort of moonshot ideas. VC exists to take risk along with the founder. And that is the best kind of capital that you can possibly raise, because if you don't have the early risk capital available, you can't take decisions even in what looks like traditional sounding businesses to really run fast, move fast, because markets are changing faster, consumers are changing very fast. So you can't afford to stay, be and do business like usual. For a startup, there's no such thing as business as usual. You have to run much faster than everybody else, almost faster than your consumer, because you actually have to stay several steps ahead of the consumer also. to be able to continue to attract the consumer and for the consumer to keep coming back to you. So VCs play, I would say, I mean, VCs are the lifeline of any great company that's going to get built today, which didn't exist up until today.
Lots to learn here, Archana. Thank you so much for your time and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.